Happy New Year and welcome back to the Rollout. I am Linsay Rousseau.
And I'm Genevieve Marie. Hello and welcome.
So much content has come out in the past couple weeks. Like we can't even keep up. We've had Spider-Man, we've had Wheel of Time, we've had the end of Hawkeye, we've had The Matrix. So we had a lot to choose
Batman.
from. I know, right?
Which totally just went over my head.
Which one again?
Batman.
Oh yeah. But we are going to dive into season 2 of The Witcher because Genevieve and I are both really big fans of The Witcher, the video games, the books. And we've previously talked about the animated series here, which actually is pretty crucial to season 2 of The Witcher. So spoilers ahead. If you have not seen season 2, come back at a later date. It's been out for a while now, so hopefully you've seen it. Let's dive right in. So obviously season 2 picks up right where season 1 left off. We're now in book 2 of the original books, the Blood of the Elves. And I mean, I enjoyed it. It was definitely a different feel than season 1 a little bit.
Oh yeah. I think the thing that people are kind of figuring out is the new way that they're handling the timeline. So the first season, they jumped all around the timeline, and then they really, really worked hard to get that continuity working together to make a seamless story that just jumps around everywhere, that's non-linear.
Right.
Whereas season 2 is very linear.
Yeah. And they even made a joke in the show, a very self-aware joke about the lack of, chronological continuity in season 1.
Yeah, like I think that was mostly like for people that were coming into it like fresh and they hadn't played the games, hadn't read the books, knew nothing about it. That was the one complaint that I think the overarching complaint that came out of season 1. And I can't fault people for that. Like,
no,
it is a fantasy series. It is just, for fun and stuff. So I definitely was like, yeah, I get what you're saying. Like I could follow it and, you gotta put a little brain work in there.
Yeah.
But because I mean, it was confusing, but they did put in the effort to make sure it, the continuity read correctly. However, it definitely was confusing. Like if you weren't ready to do work.
Right. Yeah. Well, and and part of that is also because season 1 is based on the original Witcher, which was not a novel. It was a collection of short stories. If people are not aware of the source material, it was a collection of short stories. So it was a bunch of different short stories that took place at all different time periods following Geralt, Yennefer, and Ciri. So from that standpoint, it made sense. Whereas all the subsequent books are very much one long story arc. Like it's going to be continuous moving forward if they're following the book structure.
Right, exactly. So season 2, very interesting. There were a few things out there that people really liked, and then there were a few things that in my workspace especially, there were some complaints. I will say that Eskel was probably the biggest one.
Eskel he blew up the internet. For people who are diehard fans of the film, Eskel dies in season 2 but does not die in the books, and he's actually a pretty important character. So and he died pretty quickly. Like he shows up at Kaer Morhen and then halfway through the episode, he's gone.
You did not even get time to care about him before he was dead. And even saying that, he like the screen time that he did have, he was an asshole for most of it.
He was an asshole. I will say, I mean, and I can understand. So for people who are fans of The Witcher, I mean, I'm kind of meh about his character, but I get that that was a very big change to make to the show.
Yeah. I know the reason why they did it. Like they had to add emotional weight to the end.
Yes.
And especially for, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. Daddy Witcher.
Oh, Vesemir.
Vesemir, that's right. Like they had to add a lot of emotional weight for his character to, have him side, pick the side that he did at the very end, and to motivate him to try and get the mutagens and stuff. Because I mean, the whole book series after the first short story run basically hinges on everybody wanting something from Ciri because she's so powerful.
Right. Her blood,
right. Like her elder blood, her lineage, she's the key to for everybody to get what they want.
Yeah.
No matter what it is that they want, they think that she is the key, the reason, the way that they're going to get what they want.
Right.
And so I think that was really important that it started out with Vesemir first. And, it's just going down the line. Like, Nilfgaard wants her. You don't really know why. And you're just like, yeah, I mean, it's the motivation for her to be on the run. But now you're kind of weaving in the reason, you figure out she has elder blood, how witchers are made. Right. And then it just, it really
still a political pawn. Yeah. And she's also a political pawn. Like she is, the princess, and so marrying her, which becomes more prominent in the subsequent books. So if you haven't read them, no spoilers, but like,
I hope y'all are ready for that.
Y'all are ready because they actually make a pretend Ciri and pretend to marry her so they can claim her kingdom. So yes, she is wanted for everything.
Yeah.
But I have to say, my favorite thing about this season was the relationship between Ciri and Geralt. Like they really, really developed that, and I could just I could see the love between the two of them, which I thought was really important that they established that. And I think they did a really good job of doing that, and then showing her training and her progress. And
yeah, they really did a good job building up the trust and like making that very like father-daughter relationship. And the thing that I love about Geralt and his relation with Ciri is very much that it is almost like he's the absent father figure, who has to suddenly like take responsibility. That's kind of his whole arc in season 1. That is just basically a metaphor that, like you got the daughter now, like, she has nobody else but you. And so he's taking on a role that he was never prepared for. And I think that's really good, meaty stuff for Henry Cavill to work on. And I really enjoyed it. I thought they did a great job. I thought they did a good job showing how that trust and that bond has been strengthened. And she does listen and respect him, even though she also has her own opinions and she can go off and do her own thing as well. It's good. I like the push and the pull.
And we also see his growth too, because he goes from just being her protector to being her mentor. And like, whereas he was just so focused on protecting her, towards the end of the series, she proves that she is a fighter in her own right as well. And, is able to, which is showing what she'll become in the future, and that she is able to stand alongside him and fight as well, which I also thought was really great. I will say, and we can dive into some of the things that, maybe not necessarily disappointed us, but that were a little cause for concern. And I think one of that was we didn't really see her magical development so much in this season, which I was kind of surprised about, because they really downplayed Triss's involvement in this season, whereas in book 2 she has huge involvement. I mean, she shows up at Kaer Morhen pretty soon and starts training Ciri, to be a sorceress as well. And then Geralt has a whole romantic relationship with her, and that was pretty much absent from this season.
Right. I think Triss was used. Triss has a different purpose in this show, I believe. I think that they really, really want to lean on Yennefer teaching her and becoming her mentor, because her and Geralt obviously have some things they need to work out in season 3.
Which we get by the end, like they're family.
Right. But the trust between her and Geralt that is been broken. And so season 3, it needs to, they need to build that back up. That's what they set it up for, basically, like, for them to have their relationship, or maybe not have their relationship. I mean, in the books, it's always on again, off again sort of thing. I don't know if they plan on doing, I mean, it seems pretty clear to me that they are like, yes, Yennefer is the one and only, like she's the true love. We're going to work on, having this relationship happen, but we are going to need these two characters to put the work in and then give them, obstacles to, overcome, or else it's going to be like the romance in the relationship is going to be said and done with before we even get to season 3.
They did a good job by showing Yennefer's struggle with having to essentially give Ciri up as a sacrifice, and that was like the ultimate betrayal to Geralt. And it's like,
right,
but
it was basically like
it, but yeah,
I mean, because she's done some things to Geralt, but I think this was the one thing that like was the big no. If there ever was one thing, this was it.
This would have been it.
Right. And so I really appreciate that they went there. A lot of the times people don't have, shows don't have the guts to actually like do the thing and, go to those emotional places, because they can be really hard to repair those relationships and write and build them back up. As far as a writing standpoint, you have to do it really well. So I'm glad they accepted the challenge.
Yeah,
that was really nice. Oh, and this has no bearing on anything, but I was going to be so mad if that hut didn't have bird legs.
I know, right?
My SO and I were watching it together, and I look at him and he looks at me. I'm like, that hut better have bird legs by the end of this season, or else I'm going to be so mad. And then when it showed up, both of us were just like, bird legs.
That was created for the show, because that was not originally in the book. So yeah, that was, which I thought was a good addition. I thought it really worked.
I thought it was really cool
to get a lot of these, to get Fringilla where she needed to be, to get a lot of these characters to progress their storyline to where it needed to be. I thought did a really good job, because obviously we have Geralt and Ciri's story, but then we also have the whole elf story as well with Nilfgaard, and and we're seeing Fringilla's like her story, and also quite fascinating in this show, showing all of the struggles she's going through and her questionable decisions.
Right. I really like Fringilla in this. I think that she has a lot of interesting, she has a meaty role, and she has a lot of interesting things to work through as a main, female character. And her storyline has nothing to do with a lover or anything like that. It's just purely political battle that she's doing and trying to navigate, and survival as well. Like she has to navigate the political world as well as trying to survive in this new this new Nilfgaard, which she does believe in, but she also is very, very clearly aware of how dangerous her position is. And
she's not technically a ruler. She's technically just an advisor.
That scene at the dinner table was just like,
oh man,
wow.
Yeah. But
that was crazy.
Yeah, and like she really was genuinely working for peace. Like she really seemed to want to be fostering a bridge between her kingdom and Francesca, from leader of the elves. And then it just all falls apart, and we see her go to a very, very dark place.
Right. I absolutely loved that. I thought that was really great. And then Francesca goes to probably the darkest place that any character in this season goes to.
Babies. Just babies.
Pretty insane.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, she just went completely scorched earth, and Filavandrel is just like standing in there in the back, like, all right, you're the ruler.
Yep. Scorned woman.
Yes, we're doing this. And I get like, that is some like crazy ruler, like insane king shit. That was great.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Um, the one person, okay, so the one person that I had no idea that they were going to make such a big character, and it took me a second rewatch of the season to even learn his name, is Kahir, the Black Knight.
Yeah. Black Knight.
Oh my God, that went over my head so, because I just hear this like extremely long ass name and I'm like, what did they say in the beginning? Like the what? And I just had to like turn on subtitles. I was like, oh, that's,
yeah.
I don't know why it didn't really click to me, but
right.
the second
because
watch,
he ends up going from just being serious kidnapper in season 1, just this like obscure black, crow guy, to now single-handedly like transforming he has a huge impact in Frangilla. Like, I do wonder how things would have worked out with her had he not shown up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the elf baby was always going to come, and the elf baby was always going to die because of who kills it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it definitely, he affected their end route. That's for sure.
Yeah.
He's just like, yeah, just say you did it. It's like, no, dude, it's a big no. Yeah, no, I thought that was very interesting that, I mean, he, along with Triss and other characters, were used to tell the story of the more prominent characters, like for this season anyway, like Angela and Yennefer, and they were like the connecting characters that kind of replaced in a lot of ways the time skipping in the first season.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. And then we were introduced to the other Witchers, which, because in season 1 we only have Geralt and we only hear stories. And I will say, one thing I was a little disappointed with is that I love the fight scenes. Like, all of the fights in this were fantastic, but I just didn't feel like the other Witchers were as badass as they probably should have been. I'm like, they all died really quickly. And then I was like, what? These are just normal dudes. These are not mutants. So
you're just normal dudes.
Just normal dudes. So I
love that assessment. I love that assessment because I agree with you. I do agree with you on many levels with that. I am definitely thinking back to the animated movie that they did.
Yeah,
a lot of them just got bowled the fuck over by a pogrom, like just a bunch of actual normal dudes storming Kaer Morhen, just fucking wrecked their shit. I mean, of course there's other like demons and stuff happening, but like a lot of them do get killed by regular fucking people. Yeah, but it's like, it's like the zombie effect, I guess, in that one, where there are too many of them, so they get overpowered. They might be weak, but in numbers they're pretty strong. But yeah, no, I agree. You don't really get to know, other than the two people who are very much assholes to Ciri. the ones that survive.
Yeah.
You don't get to really know that much about them, and they kind of I think their purpose was to die in the last, in the last episode. I think that was very much their purpose. And the show really does a good job of fleshing out everybody's character and giving everybody something to do. But you're right. I think that was the one place where characters really didn't have that much to do other than to fight and die.
Yeah.
To serve the greater narrative.
Yeah. I mean, and I will say, it makes, it did what it was supposed to do. That was just a little thing that niggled in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Okay. But in general, the tone for this season was a little bit different than season 1. Like, we still had kind of the dry wit and humor of Geralt, the little quippy stuff. One review I've read was that there wasn't enough sex in season 2 because that's fundamental to his character. And the other thing that I think made a big difference was with the overall seriousness of the season, as we didn't have Dandelion. We didn't have Jasker until
No.
the last 2 episodes. And that was like, I didn't realize how much I missed him. Cause in the books, and he can be kind of annoying, and even in season 1 a little bit, but I was like,
right. The game. Oh my God.
it's a gaping hole in this season. And I'm so glad we finally get him back at the end. So we know we'll have him in season 3. But I was like, man, not having him this season, I thought had a huge impact in so much of this show of the
right. I mean, well, season 1 definitely, like with the songs, with the ballads and the different going from monster to monster, it was very not like episodic, but there was a levity to it, and just like sort of like a fun romp.
It was like a monster of the week, type.
Right. Yeah. Right. It was like, a fun romp and stuff, and you got a new song. This season, you only get one new song. If you don't count the one where he's in the prison.
To his little mice, yes.
I think he does a really great job of when he's on screen. I think that they did a good job. I do like the fact that he got more time to actually talk and interact with Yennefer.
Yeah,
because
he hated her so much.
He hated her, but also it's just such a weird, it would be very strange to go through like into season 3 and still have those characters not really having interacted or know each other that well.
Right.
Because even in season 1, he just kind of really made himself scarce around her because of the fact that he really didn't like her.
Yeah.
But now that in season 2, they had to actually interact and, grapple and work together. I really like the fact that, he was able to, kind of learn a thing or two about her and who she is, where she's coming from. And, he was very charitable with his comparison of him, of the muses not speaking to him anymore and his fear about that.
Yeah.
I thought that was a nice moment to kind of show you, like, yes, like he doesn't like her, but he's also, he's a good person. So he's not going to completely be a horrible dick about it.
Well, and then through him, we also learned that Yennefer is part elf, which, again, if you've read the books, you would have known that. If you didn't, we aren't told that in season 1. And
they do mention it in season 1.
Oh, do they mention it in season 1?
They do. Okay, that's why she doesn't. That's why they were going to send her to Nilfgaard.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay, now I remember. You're right.
They do mention it, and it does have an effect on her in the beginning, but never after that. Like never after her time at Aretusa. Whereas in this season, they really went like took that detail and just like leaned on it, which I thought was good.
Yeah, because we didn't really see much of the elves in season 1, and obviously the racism between humans and elves plays such a huge role in the books. And when we get to subsequent seasons, I mean, well, I don't want to spoil future seasons, but we do get some very prominent elves coming in future versions of the book. And then when Ciri ends up going off and joining the gang of people. So setting up that extreme racism was really important this season. I thought they nailed it. And so, Yennefer's being part elf, showing that she is not accepted by either world.
Right. They did a good job with that. I think they did a good job with Nilfgaard's very watery truce. Fringilla was really the one that kind of was the tent poles, all 4 tent poles for that like elven Nilfgaardian truce. And, you got to see the sort of like the way that they're dealing with them, like sort of like refugee camps and stuff like that, where it's just like, but like, we're providing you with this aid and, a safe place to be, but in return, you gotta sing for your supper a bit, you gotta fight with us. Right. And that is the only thing, that's keeping them there, that's keeping them safe. And which I thought was kind of interesting. I thought it was kind of funny the way that Francesca completely decided to say, fuck that. Yeah. Because that kind of threw me a little bit, because like she knew what, she knew what was needed from her and her people in order
Yeah.
to keep them safe and in Nilfgaard. And she just decided to throw that out the window.
Yeah, she really
which,
did.
which I think nobody wanted. Like even if the white flame, which we'll talk about that next.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if the white flame was not too like pleased with it, like it still doesn't behoove him at all to break up this truce. Like he thinks that killing that baby is going to make them want to like fight for Nilfgaard. And it's like, that's kind of a watery assumption there, dude. Like you don't know, like they could just fuck off.
Yeah, exactly.
But the white flame.
Yeah, let's dive into the white flame, because that was a big moment. Yeah.
It was a big moment. You knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. The people who played the games and read the books knew it was coming.
Right. But it still was impactful. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that dude turned around and I'm like, are you even old enough to be her dad?
I mean, magic stuff.
Magic, I suppose.
That's how we explain everything. Magics.
Magic.
Yeah, because obviously it's alluded to in season 1 briefly. I think it was like, about halfway through the season. Yeah, so that was a huge cliffhanger to end this on.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, when it comes to the original books, he has a really big role in them, from where he started off as, the hedgehog and the curse and everything like that, to where we are now. So I'm very interested to see where that storyline takes us.
Right. I'm interested to see if they like really go the whole, the full mile with his, plans.
Well, because like, dude, he was like brutal. I mean, literally like a reign of terror,
Right.
I mean, like, and again, we've talked about like the fake Ciri, like he creates a fake version of his daughter to marry to, establish himself as the ruler of Sintra. And it's just like, okay, sure. Why not?
Why not do that? Also,
fake marry your daughter.
What? I just like not even caring the implications of that, even if the person is fake, like nobody else knows it's fake.
No,
they're all thinking
not. Yeah.
Weird, dude. Also, I do want to point out the one glaring thing, and this is just, they probably just couldn't get him. He was probably just busy.
Yeah.
When Ciri is having her, when she's trapped inside of herself and she's having the illusion at the ball and like in the throne room. So I don't remember what his name is, but it's her, it's like her grandfather, her grandmother's husband. Not there. In fact, they got a body double for him, put him in, his costume, and then had his back be the only thing that you saw. Yeah. And it was very distracting because whenever you saw Queen Calanthe, if she's like, I'm framed up in the scene, his back was right there. And it was so distracting because I knew it wasn't him.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking to myself, like, wouldn't you just like cut in closer and completely cut him out of the frame? Like that, the back, the random back is very distracting to me. And I'm sure there are many people, the majority of people probably are like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, how did you even catch that? But for me, I'm just like, it was so glaringly obvious because I'm like, oh yeah, and there's her family, because there's only like 3 people sitting up in that dais.
It was her husband, and then her advisor, who was like Ciri's, pseudo
right, sort of. Right, Malsak. And I'm like, there's only 3 people sitting up there, and one of them is not like the others because you don't see his face.
No,
that was okay. So like, just from a technical standpoint, that was the one thing that boggled my mind. Like, I know if you couldn't get the actor, if there was like COVID things in the way, or whatever it was.
But
I don't know
like,
what
could you not have pulled scenes from season one? Because it's reenacting essentially a scene from season one.
right
From season one, you've already got a
or
massive CGI budget. You could have hypothetically CGI the dude, or I don't know, just made it about
superimpose the face onto, you know, like don't do a close up, just superimpose the face over the body double.
Yeah.
Not have the back in every shot, in every close up or mid shot rather of Queen Calanthe.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was a thing. That was a thing that just like personally bothered me from a technical standpoint. Everything else I did enjoy. I know some people are saying like the wyverns look like dinosaurs, and I'm like, they're always gonna look like fucking dinosaurs, dude. Like everything that is like a giant reptile, like be it between a dragon and like a wyvern or whatever the fuck it is gonna look like a dinosaur.
Yeah.
And I think they were actually supposed to be like basilisks, but I'm like, it's gonna be what it's gonna be, guys. Like,
I mean, fantasy is fantasy. It's all based on other things. So like, I had no problem with that. Yeah. No.
Right. And they were just, I mean, they were also just props, like things to distract and to cause havoc. So like they weren't like big and important to the story. So I wasn't too concerned about them. I mean, the design wasn't like the greatest. It didn't really stand out to me as like, this is the coolest thing ever. But I also didn't really care because that was not the point of that scene.
No, it wasn't.
I was fine with that.
Yeah.
I was actually not really even paying attention to them at all. I was like, And
it's part of the overall arc that they were trying to bring up is that, you know, since the cataclysm, like, where do monsters come from? Like, that's been the overarching question, which we started to answer in this season. And, you know, part of it was almost like, oh, like, does Ciri have a role to play with all these monsters? You know, because they all seem to be coming for her, but do they want to kill her? I mean, maybe not.
Right. Well, that also brings up a really good point, is not only where do monsters come from, but this season explained where do humans come from?
Yeah.
Where do, you know, all the other races come from? Because even though, you know, technically this takes place on Earth, our Earth,
right?
It's not our Earth. It's you know, the elves inhabited it first before the conjunction of the spheres, and then all the other races, humans, dwarves, gnome, like all of them have come after,
right? Which is explained much down the line in the books when we start getting into time travel. Spoilers, there's time travel.
Yes, I mean, like anybody that knows anything about Ciri, lady of space and time.
Yeah, she's the doctor. I mean, that's what she is.
Well, I mean, she did take them to a whole other planet, so there is also that in season 2, you know, at the end.
Right. Yeah.
She didn't fuck with time. Don't fuck with time. She didn't fuck with time, but
definitely fucked with space.
She fucked with the space. So, you know, which is very impressive because before that she didn't do any of that or wasn't really even capable of teleporting. So yeah, I think they definitely play around with the idea and hint at the idea in season 1. And then in season 2, they just kind of talk about it like it's a normal thing, which is the easiest way to kind of introduce something to the audience and make it sound, you know, not have like this great aside where they're like, in the beginning, there were only the elves, and
which
you know,
they could have done a whole like Galadriel voiceover thing for that, but I don't think we needed it, honestly.
No, it's The Witcher isn't like that high of fantasy, you know. It's a lot more it's a lot more like Game of Thrones grounded. So I'm appreciative that they did not do that. I think it would have just been out of place.
The only thing that maybe they could have given us a Dandelion song about it. That's the only way I feel like they could have maybe done that within the Witcher,
Yeah, that's fair.
Style, but no, I thought it was fine the way they handled
Right.
it.
They drop breadcrumbs and it's very casual. And I think that's definitely the way to go about it. I mean, Game of Thrones, they did the exact same thing with like the history and like the Mad King and all that. They drop breadcrumbs about it until the characters who actually had to, deal with the Mad King or, this, that, and the other thing, said their piece about it, and then we moved on and had a great time up until the last couple of seasons. And then we didn't have such a good time.
And everyone keeps comparing The Witcher to Game of Thrones, but honestly, I already think The Witcher is above and beyond where Game of Thrones was, because
Game of Thrones crawled,
just used trope after, and I enjoyed a lot of aspects of it, but man, did they rely on tropes for storytelling. And that's one thing I feel like, and like with Wheel of Time as well, like The Witcher and Wheel of Time, I'm like, they've not used the traditional like fantasy tropes to tell the stories, and I really appreciated that.
Right. I believe Game of Thrones crawled so that The Witcher and things after it can run. I think that Game of Thrones definitely has that place in history that and people are going to be like, no, it didn't, but basically that Lord of the Rings did. Where it set the precedent for most all modern fantasy that came after it. And so everybody just kind of used the Lord of the Rings template to write modern fantasy and high fantasy. And that was just the things that, I mean, like hobbits, dude. Like every whether or not they're called halflings or whatever the fuck,
gnomes, hobbits,
it established hobbits. It made certain races be normalized and just like, oh, that's just part of the fantasy world.
Right.
Everybody knows this, and that this is just one of the races that we have. Whereas Game of Thrones, I think, is, on a lesser scale, and hopefully the books get finished at some point. But it's our generation's Lord of the Rings, where it is more casual, like it's not as highbrow fantasy as Lord of the Rings was, but it is written and given to us in a way that our modern day audiences enjoy it and it's easily digestible to us. And so that is going to be the template, rough though the show may be, that all other fantasy shows are going to come and be modeled after it. It's going to take, they're going to take a lot of the same things. And they're going to take what is good, and then they're going to probably leave, hopefully, what is bad about it. And I think that's really good.
I mean, so if you haven't seen it, go see it. If you didn't watch the animated Witcher,
sorry we fucked it all up for you.
Please go watch the animated Witcher, because it will actually give a lot more context.
Yes, it informs a lot.
It really informs a lot of season 2. So like, our complaints about we didn't get enough of the other Witchers and stuff, a lot of those characters are developed within the animated movie, which we know we're going to get another one. So, the showrunner has already said she plans to do all of the books. So if we're lucky, we've got several more seasons of The Witcher to come. And
they also have the spinoff.
Oh yeah, so we did get the trailer for Blood Origins at the very end, which looks amazing. I mean, I will watch anything with Michelle Yeoh, quite frankly. Like, she is you can do no wrong in my world. So the fact that she, especially at her age, is headlining this show is so exciting for me. And I don't mean to be rude by saying her age. I mean, if you watched our episode about female representation in Hollywood, you know that for women over a certain age, there's virtually no roles for you. So I was very excited that it was her and not some like 20-something-year-old. Nothing wrong with 20-something-year-olds, but that was exciting for me.
Right, exactly. Like Michelle Yeoh, and like I'm trying to, like, you can count the number of women in that age bracket on your fingers that get roles like that, they get the like it would be the equivalent to like the older man, the hero role like John Wick or
I mean, it's
what
like we have
they
Charlize
did.
Theron, who's a little bit younger, who's still getting action roles at an older age. Helen Mirren's done some action roles. Cate Blanchett obviously had Hella.
And Angelina Jolie.
Oh, and Angelina Jolie.
Probably the one like largest standout to me. Like Charlize, yeah, she's probably like top of the list. But she really isn't.
She's younger than
she really isn't like hitting in that age bracket.
Yeah, she's still significantly younger than Michelle Yeoh. So yeah.
Yeah, Michelle Yeoh, like you said, she can do no wrong for me either.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna watch the shit out of that show.
I am so excited for that show. Yeah. So that is the spinoff that we are looking forward to whenever it eventually comes out. COVID pending. Yeah. So let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, no, tell us what you think about season 2 or The Witcher as a whole. We'd love to hear what you think. Comment down below. Help us with that algorithm. If you liked our video, please subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and we'll see you in the next one. We upload every Friday at noon Pacific Standard Time. Yeah. She says the spiel every time.
I know.
Somehow fucks it up.
We don't know if you're actually
one little way. But it doesn't matter. We're unscripted. All right. We'll see you later, guys.
See you next week.